ॐ श्रीकृष्ण परमात्मने नमः। अथ एकादशोऽध्यायः। आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्रहरूपो
आख्याहि मे को भवानुग्ररूपो
नमोऽस्तु ते देववर प्रसीद।
नमोऽस्तु
नमोऽस्तु ते
देववर
देववर
प्रसीद।
प्रसीद।
विज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यम्
विज्ञातुमिच्छामि
ज्ञातुमिच्छामि भवन्तमाद्यम्।
न हि प्रजानामि तव प्रवृत्तिम्।
न
न
हि
हि
ज्ञानं
प्रजानामि तव
प्रवृत्तिम्
प्रवृत्तिम्।
श्रीभगवानुवाच कालोऽस्मि लोकक्षयकृत् प्रवृद्धो
श्रीभगवानुवाच
श्रीभगवानुवाच
कालोऽस्मि लोकक्षय
कालोऽस्मि
प्रवृद्धो।
लोकान् समाहर्तुमिह प्रवृत्तः।
लोकान्
समाहर्तुमिह
प्रवृत्तः
प्रवृत्तः।
ऋतेऽपि त्वां न भविष्यन्ति सर्वे
ऋतेऽपि त्वां न
त्वां न
भविष्यन्ति
भविष्यन्ति
सर्वे
सर्वे।
एव स्थिता प्रत्यनीकेषु योद्धाः।
येव
एव
स्थिताः
स्थितः
प्रत्यनीकेषु
प्रत्यनीकेषु
योधा
योधाः।
तस्मात् उत्तिष्ठ यशो लभस्य।
तस्मात् त्वमुत्तिष्ठ
तस्मात्मुत्तिष्ठ
यशो
यशो
लभस्व
लभस्व।
जित्वा शत्रून् भुङ्क्ष्व राज्यं समृद्धम्।
जित्वा
जित्वा
शत्रुं
शत्रुन्
स्वराज्यं
भुङ्क्ष्व समृद्धम्।
मयैवैते निहता पूर्वमेव।
मयैवैते
मयैवैते निहता
पूर्वमेव
पूर्वमेव।
निमित्तमात्रं भव सव्यसाचिन्।
निमित्तमात्रं
निमित्तमात्रं भव
भवसव्यसाचिन्
सत्यसाचिन्।
द्रोणं च भीष्मं च जयद्रथं च
द्रोणं च
ऊनं च
भीष्मं च
भीष्मं च
जयद्रथं च
जयत्रतं च।
कर्णं तथान्यानपि योधवीरान्।
कर्णं तथा
कर्णं
ज्ञानपि योधवीरान्
तथान्यानवियोधवीरान्।
मया हृतास्त्वं जहिमा व्यतिष्ठा।
मया
मया
हतास्त्वं
हतात्वं
जहिमा
जहिमा
व्यतिष्ठः
व्यतिष्ठा।
युध्यस्व चेतासि रणसपत्नान्।
युध्यस्वचेतासि
यस्त्वजेदातिरणे
सपत्नान्।
सपत्नान्।
सञ्जय उवाच एतच्छ्रुत्वा वचनं केशवस्य।
सञ्जय
सञ्जय
उवाच
उवाच
एतच्छ्रुत्वा वचनं
एतद्वचनं
केशवस्य
कृताञ्जलिर्वेपमानः किरीटी।
कृताञ्जलिर्वेपमानः
कृताञ्जलिर्वेपमान
किरीटी
किरीटी।
नमस्कृत्वा भूय एवाह कृष्णम्।
नमस्कृत्वा
नमस्कृत्वा
भूय
भूय एवाह
कृष्णम्
कृष्णम्।
सगद्गदम् भीतभीतप्रणम्य।
सगद्गदं
तथागतं भीतभीतः
भीतभीतः
प्रणम्य।
प्रणम्य
ऋषिकेश तव प्रकीर्त्याम्
अर्जुन उवाच स्थाने
सधान ऋषिकेश तव प्रतिज्ञा।
जगत्प्रहृष्यत्यनुरज्यते च।
जगत्प्रहृष्यत्
जगत्प्रहृष्यनुद्यते च
यनुरज्यते च।
रक्षांसि भीतानि दिशो द्रवन्ति।
रक्षांसि
रक्षांसि
भीतानि
भीतानि
दिशो
दिशो
द्रवन्ति
भवन्ति।
सर्वे नमस्यन्ति च सिद्धसङ्गाः।
सर्वे
सर्वे
नमस्यन्ति च
नमस्यन्
सिद्धसङ्घाः
सिद्धसङ्घाः।
कस्माच्च तेन न मे स्मर नम sorry, Kasmachate Nameran Mahatman.
कस्माच्च
तस्माच्च
तेन
तेन
न
न
मेरन्महात्मन्
मेरन्महात्मन्
Gariyase Brahmano Vyadikatre.
गरीयसे
क्रियसे
ब्रह्मणो कर्त्रे
ब्रह्मणोऽप्यादिकर्त्रे
अनन्तदेवेश जगन्निवास
अनन्तदेवेश
अनन्तदेवेश जगन्निवास
जगन्निवास
त्वमक्षरं सदसत्तत्परं यत्
त्वमक्षरं
त्वमक्षरं
सदसत्तत्परं
सततत्परं
यत्
त्वमादिदेवः पुरुषः पुराणः
त्वमादिदेवः
आदिमेव
पुरुषः पुराणः
पुराणाः
त्वमस्य विश्वस्य परं निधानम्
त्वमस्य
त्वमस्य
विश्वस्य
विश्वस्य
परं
परं
निधानम्
निधानम्
वेत्तासि वेद्यं च परं च धाम
वेत्तासि
वेत्तासि च
परं
परं च धाम
त्वया ततं विश्वमनन्तरूप
त्वया ततं
त्वया ततं
विश्वमनन्तरूप
विश्वमनन्तरूप
where we were discussing last week. There was Arjuna was describing all that he was observing in the Vishwarupa Darshan, right? And it went on to the intensity was so much more. He was awed, he was speechless, he was not able to express what he was observing, and it was beyond comprehension to the point that somewhere he felt that total feeling of nothingness. I'm nothing, right? I'm a little speck of sand, the whole context of the universe. Even though he was considered the best archer, that humbleness, that feeling of being totally grounded dawned on him. And that's what all of us should also experience when we understand this Vishwarupa Darshana. So to the point that he said that, I really am wondering what is the purpose of you being here? Why are you here? Why am I also here? Right? What is the purpose of my life? Why are so many people that have come in my life? What is the purpose for all of them? Right? The whole purpose of life, from different contexts, from your side, from the people's side, from experience side, all of that comes into the picture. And he asked Krishna that question in the 31st verse. And so in the 32nd verse onwards, couple of verses, Bhagavan is going to express that part. So 32nd verse, he says, I am time. So, those of us who have heard that this Mahabharata, old episode, right, in TV series, My Call Home, right? It starts with that, My Call. They'll show the time spinning, etc., all kinds of things, right? All of that, My Call. So he says, I am time. Here, what is he meaning by time? The world destroying time. That's what he's saying as time. So for us, let's understand, right? Anything and everything, right? If you look at it, has to happen that we see experiences outside has to happen in the context of space and time. There's nothing that exists without it, right? So you take all the names and forms, your own form over time, over space, different places, different times, things have been changing, right? Forms, people that you see forms, right? Today they are in a particular form, your child, your sibling, right? They've all grown up. So there is also time for creation, sustenance, and destruction. So here he's saying, talking about the time for destruction, the time on that. So I am the mighty world destroying time. We say, many a times, only when the right time comes, things will happen. Hasn't it happened to many of us? We go through a certain experience. You say, why did I not go through this earlier? Especially if it's a good experience. Only when time comes, certain things happen. And then when certain things that are undesirable happens, why did this come now to me? Time. So time and time and time. So the whole world is governed by time. The whole cosmos is driven by time. So that Kala. So that Kala is a huge thing. It's a topic by itself to be meditated upon. The present moment is Kala. Time right now, right? This Shanam, right? Is time. The depth of the current moment, the depth of what I visualize, what I plan is now time. The present time is so precious. And in the context of time, right, even Yama is called Kala. He is the ultimate annihilator, as it is referred. Because in time, and Yama is very clear, right? If the time has come, there is no question about him giving any leeway. You have to go, you have to go. So here he says, so basically if one were to look at the entire creation and we look at our own existence, we've all come by some grand plan that Ishvara has had for us to come in a particular body, to go through certain experiences at a certain time. And in time, we have to come to this class at 9:15 in the morning. It is his time, right? He has made sure it has happened. There's no choice. And if it is certain times that we have to go through certain experiences, time. So we go back to the 4th chapter, he said that, whenever there is a dharma that goes beyond a certain point, I come in the form of avatars to destroy adharma. So again, when the right time has dawned in to make certain things happen, to destroy evil things, I will come in the form of an avatar to make it happen. So here he's saying, I am that avatar. I am the person who has come to destroy wicked people. Right? And so that's a key thing. And then here he says one thing very clearly in the second line. He says that even without you, these people, the enemies in front of you, have been killed. See how profoundly he's saying, and that would just, shock the hell of somebody else, right? Like somebody like Arjuna, who's a warrior, who his belief is that he is the one who's going to kill everybody. He's saying, without you, without your presence, I've taken care of them. It's almost like saying, the question that comes up automatically in all of this, right? Why is Krishna saying this? Is it that he has killed some people? No, right? We have to understand what he's saying, that the time has come for these people to die. It is not that he's physically killed anybody. He's a akarta, right? He doesn't do anything. But the time has come for these people to die. Based upon whatever things have happened in the past. Let's not get into that, but the time is now. And so, if you look at this whole Kala, this whole context of Kala, right? So there is in our Vedic culture, Siddhas, Rishis, Gurus, all of them were Kalajnanis, as they refer to. What it means is that, you go in front of them, they would just scan you for a few minutes, for a few seconds, sorry. And they would be able to tell you everything about you from the past and what is likely to happen in the future. Because for them, Kala is So at this present moment, they can look at everything in the past and the future. And even today, gurus have said this. In fact, Shri Ravi Shankar said that all I need just a few scan, I know everything about you. And so have other rishis. Everybody has said this. And today there are people blessed as Kalagyanis who are devout meditators and other people who have also been given that power. You take, for example, Ayurvedic doctors, not all of them, some certain Ayurvedic doctors who look at your pulse from within. They, internally they are looking at, the functioning of the organs and certain energies, etc. Right? And if they also have a good presence of mind with their intuition as to what is likely to happen 1 month from now. That you will go through a particular challenge in your health. And to prevent that, please do this A, B, C, and D. So time is something, for us, time is past, present, future. But if I see, even in the current time right now, right, so don't be at this given time plan for the future. See, I'm at least at this present moment, I'm planning for what is going to happen later. So here we are talking about somebody who can forecast to a large extent what the future is going to be. So here he's saying, I am that time, Kala. So, if you go back to, scriptures, right? The Nalta Sasam, it also says, Icha Shakti Kriya Shakti Jnana Shakti Surupinye Namaha, right? And so that one is, in that, if you see because everything is made up of desire, there is a knowledge or an intellect behind it, and then there's an action behind it, which is a kriya. Now, in that kriya shakti, that if you split it up further, there is a srishti, sthiti, laya. Creation, sustenance, and laya is what? Destruction or annihilation. So therefore, Lord is saying here that that I am that, and I have taken care of them. They are meant to be, they're gone. Pretty much everybody on the other side. So all you have to do is therefore stand up. Uttishta says in the 33rd verse. And he says, be stand there. You try, put the arrow. In fact, he's saying you drive the arrow. In case your arrow is not pointed right, it will go to the right person at the right time. It's meant to be. So, because it's their time. So right now, therefore, you do this work, and then, obtain the fame. Go stand there, get a garland. Arjuna is the one who put this arrow and he killed this enemy, that enemy, etc., etc. And he says, enjoy the kingdom. Rajyam samriddham. So he says again here, Mayaivete nihata purvameva. So that means they've already been slain. And here is the most important. Nimitta matram bhava savya sachan. Be an instrument. So here is something that we have to understand. What does it mean here? Right? What does instrument mean? We ask ourselves every day, we do some work, morning to night. Small things, big things. We go to office, right? On Monday, we go to office and we have this ownership of this, that, etc. All of this. The question in all of this is, how much of a hat do we wear in terms of I am doing it, I did it? Or you go back to this thing, back to the third and fourth chapter. You remember the word yajna. The word yajna, what did it say? The yajna is a conglomeration of multiple people contributing to a particular action. No one person alone can claim authorship of an action. That action is happening. Definitely you have a role to play. No question. Let's not take that out. And your responsibility is also to do it. You can't just shy away from saying, I will not do it because somebody else is doing it. But having said that, to claim ownership of it, to claim the success of it, the failure of it, of course, we'll always say because it happened because of somebody else. It's always a problem with the success, right? We put it onto our head. Our ego builds up. So here he's saying, be it an instrument means what? You do your 100%. Your job is to do it. And surrender the remainder to me. Right? So here he's telling Arjuna, if you won the war, if Pandavas have won the war, say it's thanks to you we won the war. To whom? To Krishna. Similarly, when we do an action, at least for a moment, having that gratitude at the end of a particular action, end of a particular result, somebody says you did a great job, etc. Yes, take the glory, not a problem, but don't put it into your head. Listening to glory is one thing. Putting it into our head is where the problem comes, right? That's where the ego builds up. That's where we say, oh, I did this. So don't say, no, I didn't do it. I didn't, take the glory. It's not a problem at all. It's what you do with it ultimately that matters. So being an instrument, that was a very simple word, but it's got a lot of references in terms of how you take it. In my life, right? I have a talent, whatever it is, skill, talent, etc. My job, right, as a gift given talent to me, my job is to use that talent. That is being an instrument, right? It's like I have a screwdriver, right, which is meant to be used, and instead of the screwdriver, I'm using a pin, etc., to do some work, right, to do some repair work, right? You're not using the screwdriver. So similarly, in me also, I have a screwdriver, I have a hammer, I have a given to me, a beautiful mind, a beautiful voice, whatever it may be, it's meant to be used. But having gotten to use it, then pledge the result of it, to the larger cause. So that is how one becomes, they call it empty, right? Empty means not taking with you all the glories and also all the criticisms literally into yourself. Therefore, surrendering the success to the larger cause, to Krishna, if you would say here. That brings up, if you see in Chinya Mission, we tell the children to chant this, the pledge. It says, may thy grace and blessings flow through us to the world around us. You just reflect on that, right? Isn't that saying exactly this? That means, your grace is what is making me do something. And the result of that action that I'm going to do is also your grace. And let that go to the people around me, right? So therefore, when I see it going to the other people, I feel happy from myself. I don't take it also within myself that, in terms of doership. So it is said that, this word nimitta, it's a lot of these, it is like saying do without doing. Being an instrument is saying do without doing. Without doing means what? The doership into your head. Again, goes back to what we've learned in Karma Yoga, right? Doership, right? He is making things happen. Everything is making things happen, right? If something were not to happen, it's because of him. If something is happening, it's because of him. Yes, you can say I played a part, etc., etc., etc. Take some credit, but better that we give all the credit to him as much as possible. That's when we grow. To telling the God, you did it. Okay. All right. Then moving on, 34th stanza, he says, Dronam cha Bhishmam cha Jayadratam cha Karnam he now takes a couple of the people who are on the other side, these warriors. He says these people have already been slain because these are people very close to him. Right. In fact, if you go back to the first chapter, what was Arjuna, feeling so bad about that he has to fight his own guru, Drona, Bhishma, his grandfather, and Karna, Jayadratha. Now, what are some of the people? Again, he's bringing the importance of being an instrument in this whole thing. These people have already been killed. So earlier he said everybody. Now he's putting particular attention. So it's like saying, Drona has already been killed. Bhishma has already been killed. So I as a person doing it, I definitely have a share, but my share is meager. The larger contributor is somebody else. So if you look at this whole thing, right, it is said in our literature also in this, all the creations, inventions that have been created, be it Einstein, be it law of this, law of that, etc., all the instruments that have come, be it the LED bulb, light bulb, incandescent bulb, your microphone, your cell phone, etc. It is, yeah, definitely somebody put some effort, put a lot of engineering or, use a brain, etc., how they call it. But again, they are instruments only. Only when the right time comes, certain inventions have happened. Right. And all the necessary things congenial for that invention to happen were already there. Right. For a sound to go from in space from one place to the other, be it take it the radio, be it take your cell phone. The sound as a medium is already there. It is not that that was created. We just created something that converts it into a form that can go through space without getting corrupted. And on the other side gets decoded and then, gets to be listened in a particular frequency, isn't it? So therefore, take credit for the fact that, yeah, thanks to things. But that's the reason if you notice people like Edison, etc., they were so humble. Thousands and thousands of times they did it, and yet at the end of the day, they had that sense of reverence for the fact that, this wouldn't have happened if not for the larger force. So if you take a look at these people that he's referring to, Bhishma, right? Bhishma himself, he cannot die unless he wanted to. It is not like therefore an arrow has to happen. Right? Dronacharya, right? Unless he puts his arrow down, bow and arrow down, he cannot be killed. Jayadratha, who's the one who killed Abhimanyu, right? You know the Mahabharata story, right? His father had done his penance that, unless if somebody kills him and his head touched the ground, the person who killed him, he would die also. That was that was a blessing or whatever he had received, right? And Karna had, of course, the powerful Indra's weapons. So all of these were people with a lot of penance, they were themselves devotees. So they had a lot of power. So here he's telling in this verse that, these people who have that power, I have already taken care of them. You simply fight. So let the world know that you killed them. But for yourself, I am telling you, internalize the fact that, that Lord Krishna here, or in this case, the higher force is taking care of things. So that is in the 34th verse. Now, having heard all of this, right, and if you listen to this, somebody says, things are all taken care of, all kinds of things, right? And you've not heard this before, you again go through you're trembling. And that is expressed by Sanjaya in this 35th verse. He's saying here that having heard the speech of Krishna, right, he's Arjuna's hands are trembling, right? Trembling with fear, with this feeling of totally being overwhelmed, and his words are choking. So when you look at this words here, there are a few words that come here, right? That are very beautiful words. Gat, see this word, right? Sagadgatam, right? Sagadgatam. Sagadgatam means what? Says the choking voice, emotions, right? Sometimes that emotion comes even from, it comes from fear, but it also can be sometimes feeling of how blessed I feel, right? He's taking care of everything. Let's say there's something miraculous happened, even then you feel something in that chakra. So when you talk about a block thing, it's a chakra there, that energy is getting expressed there. So he's saying, here is a person who's just told me that he has done everything, but he wants me to take the glory of it. How can I even, think about that, right? Bhita, I'm with fear, frightened. So all of this, Sanjaya is now telling Dhritarashtra, from a Sanjaya standpoint, he doesn't want this war to happen. Even though he's heard here that people are going to die, etc., right? So here he wants Dhritarashtra to come to a realization that people are going to get killed, don't have this war. And of course, Dhritarashtra, the stone-faced, emotion, right? Still with a lot of, his head was heavy with ego and other things. Didn't budge, right? He didn't do anything there. Then Arjuna starts from the 36th verse. Now here, these verses, 36 to about 10 verses, it's considered as some of the most poetic verses. And it's a verse that, is universal in nature. It talks about the glory of Ishvara. Because so far, right, Krishna, had, slowly started revealing himself from the fourth chapter onwards, or fourth chapter onwards, a little bit about himself. And slowly he brought him to where it is in this chapter where, when, Arjuna asked for him to see his Rupa, he gave this, but he never expected to see what he saw. So here his respect, his reverence is just gone multifold high. And he's now expressing all of that in these next few verses, starting from this 36th verse. So, he says here, Sthane Rishikesha Tava Prakritya. So this word, first of all, so the first, what he's saying here is that everything is, this whole world is because of your glory. Rishikesha here means what? Rishikesha, you can say, is the lightener of all your senses, your instruments. If I'm having an instrument that, that I want to, sort of use towards a particular action, that is that enlightenment, right? That particular enabler for all of that, enlivener for all of that, is none other than Rishikesha. Again, Rishikesha is part of, at Lord, which is different words to express. So, for us, Rishikesha may be easier because, for us to think about an abstract level existence might be one thing. It is like saying Krishna. It is like saying Saraswati. It is like saying Hanuman. I'm able to connect a bit more, isn't it? So, therefore, here he's saying, Stane Rishikesha Tav Prakritya. You have, and then he says here, Rakshansi Bhitani Disho Dhavanti. All the Rakshasas are in full fear and are just going all over the place. And then Sarve namasyanti cha siddha sangaha. And then the people who are the siddhas, the people who are, have a lot of what you call blessed things, they are honoring you. Here a few things have to come, right? Sthane. Sthane means what place, right? If you see, right, at a given particular time, again, this goes back to the time context, right? At a place, at a given time, something has to happen. It is he's the enabler. Sthane. Everything has a place, right? So, and in a particular time, that particular thing has to be in a certain place is also part of him. So, which means that, if somebody has to be, in a particular place based on the circumstances through which he has to die, he will be in that place. Right? If a person has to go through, death, going through an airline crash, he will be on a plane that is destined to crash. So one way to understand it. Can be anything for that matter, right? Accident or some natural calamity or in a hospital, whatever. Or you can take it, let alone death, right? Even for us to be in a particular place, in a temple for a particular function, right? All of us might visualize, I have to go to this temple, I have to go to that temple, etc. Does it all happen? Only at a particular time we go to a certain place. So if you are at a particular place, right, that's the reason it is said to go to certain temples, which are holy temples, it doesn't happen to everybody. Right? So when everything is in place at the right time, you get to go to certain places. You get to experience certain things. So that's what this word sthana is. It's a very deep word. One were to just understand it and relate to it. So sthane rishikesha tava prakritya. So this whole, cosmos. So this word cosmos is coming here for the first time. Cosmos here is, for us to visualize even the word cosmos is a bit hard to do because we know what is Earth, and even in that Earth, we know very small part of it. So here he's saying cosmos as in, multiple galaxies, not just the manifest, but also in the unmanifest form, things that are in other lokas. So he's saying in the context, everything in this cosmos is in place. Right? That means after death, if supposing somebody has to go to a particular loka, and from that loka they have to go to another loka taken care of by him. And here he was used Rakshamsi Petani, right? Rakshasas. He says here the Rakshasas are also taken care of. That means the unwanted things. So here we can take physically as some Rakshasas. But here we can also understand it that I have a Rakshasic set of attributes also within me. You can say that maybe there are imperfections, maybe there are some misgivings, or maybe some misjudgments, whatever they are. And so how do I get rid of? So here he's saying, when you turn to the higher, they all run away. Do you understand what he's saying? So Rakshasas run away when they see you. What does that mean? When you turn your mind to a higher purpose, when you turn your mind into prayer, into meditation, into contemplation, into knowledge, the things that are unwanted in your own bosom, right? Your emotions, your thoughts, your vasanas, they also start coming down. And this is known, right? Whenever you do sadhana practices, whenever you do meditation, slowly and steadily, there is cleansing happening from inside. So that Rakshasic, you can take the Rakshasic in different way. Let's just call it unwanted tendencies. Also start going through a cleansing process. That is what he's referring to here. And then, and Siddhas Bhotudi means what? One establishes those of us who are in, go into contemplation, who follow, the um, uh, Ashtanga yoga practices and other things, right? They are in bliss. So when they say Siddhas Bhotudi means that, you experience that stillness, you experience that nothingness when you are in connected with the higher. So here, when he's talking about Vishwarupa Darshana, we can see it as what Arjuna was as a physical, template here, right? But here we have to also understand it from, we are not there to see it, right? But for us at least, we can see how is it that I get even a little taste of, this Vishwarupa Darshana in my own life is when I do certain pujas, when I'm in deep silence, when I'm in meditation. And in those spaces, what happens? And those are the things that he's going through here. 37th verse. And then he says, why should they not? Why should they not prostrate? Instead of asking why should they should all prostrate you, they putting the word, why should they not prostrate to you? Because there's no other option. And who are those people? Kasmachate nameran mahatman. Mahatman means what? Literally, it means somebody with a large head. But a large head also can be seen as one who is compassionate, right? And we know Ishvara has all that compassion, right? Even the person who has done the highest criminal thing, he still finds that there is a room for this person to change. And then Jagannivasa. What is Jagannivasa? One in whom the whole world is resting. Resting again says what? That means the world, knows fully that there is a larger force that's taking care of this entire thing. No, not all by believe that, right? Some might say I am the one taking care of things, etc. But here he's saying I am the one in which the whole world is resting with full understanding that I'm secure, I'm taken care of. Right? And then Brahmano Vyadi Katre. What does that mean? He's, again referring to the word Hiranyagarbha, right? The creator, the cosmic being, however you refer to here. And then he says Aksharam, Ananta Devesha Tvam Aksharam. Aksharam means what? Right? This word has come energy, imperishable reality, something without which nothing exists, something that cannot go through a change. Word from Aksharam. And then he says here, Ananta Dev, Asat. There are two words used here. If you look at this entire universe, right, it can be broadly classified into consisting of two main entities, Sat and Asat. One is the manifest and one is the unmanifest. So that's it, right? There's nothing else you can put it, right? And under the manifest, you can look at all the, people, objects, things that I'm able to perceive outside the world. Everything comes from me. Now, what is Asat? Asat, of course, is the unmanifest. You can now say, Ishvara is that unmanifest. Let's just look at our own self, right? What is Asat? Asat is also the things in me that make the Sat happen. That means what? My emotions, my thoughts, my impressions, the vasanas. See, everything that I do is governed by my vasanas, right? And then there's a willpower part of it, isn't it? So those aspects of it in the background that is making the things to manifest itself is asat. Now he says that I am also beyond it. I am the enlivener for the sat. I am the enlivener for the asat. And I am also beyond them. It is like saying, right? You go to a movie theater. On a movie theater, you see movie getting projected on the screen, and you see a smiling scene once, and then you see a violent scene, another one. All of them are some forms of something that got manifested in some action, and it's showing to you. It appears as though it is all getting manifested in the screen when we see it, but it's actually an unmanifested thing. It's visualized, right? When you see it, it appears as though it is all real. But the screen on which it's all projected is beyond all of it. Without it, none of this would have happened. Without it, you couldn't have projected anything, a good scene or a bad scene. So in its presence, everything happens, but it by itself is untouched by these things. That is what he's referring to here. Maksharam sadasat param yat. Going on. lot of these verses relate to, it's not something we are hearing it for the first time. But here we have to realize that he's now putting this whole thing that we may have heard in multiple chapters into a set of stanzas where he's just glorifying what all Ishvara does and what all, he's instrumental in. So if you look at the 38th verse now, he says, you are the primal God. So if you go back to that previous one, right, I was mentioning that, one thing we have to always visualize, sometimes we look at certain things and we put a stamp on it in our mind, isn't it? Person, object, things, etc. But just imagine over time, this whole thing, right? That let's just say that today you see a person who is in shambles, or you see an insect, a butterfly, or you see a worm, etc. Over time, what happens? Is it the same? A moth today, which is going to die, do we know what's going to become? Over time, it can become, for all you know, a living being, a larger living being, a human being later. So when I go around the bazaar, when I go around things, see things, etc., right? Today, with my limited thing, I just say this person, this thing, that thing, etc., etc. I put a stamp on it. But if I were to just look at it over a space of time, it is just like ourselves, right? If I were to look back in time at myself, I have no idea what I was, right? A dog going around that people are throwing stones at. Today, I might be a human being, right? So when you look at all of these, when you see the world from a different angle, that this even the little things that I ignore, or the little things I don't pay attention to, or something that I don't like, that it is his blessing. And over time, it is also going to change. I think we'll stop here.